Strange but true stories, tales from the light side, the dark side, and the other side. I'm Steve White, and I am not a medical professional, nor will I pretend to be one. I will say the human mind is a really powerful and cool thing that is still mysterious to even those who are medical professionals. So what one may consider an eccentricity or even an illness may be more like a gift to someone else. The ability to communicate with a relative who passed away many years before may seem like a blessing to some and a curse to others. Today's story was sent to us by a woman who has struggled with her gift or curse since she experienced contact with what she believes were long-lost relatives. Here is her story. A little background info before I start. While strange things have followed me my entire life, this is a new one for me. My problems started as a small child, and although they went away for a little while, they came back violently in my teens. So violently, in fact, that I spent a year on antipsychotics because I convinced my psychiatrist and psychologist that I had some kind of schizoaffective disorder. That was not the case, and in fact I found out that this sort of gift runs heavily in my family, going many generations back. So here's the story. The day before yesterday was October 31st. And what that means varies greatly from person to person, but I take it as a chance to venerate my ancestors and departed relatives, as well as a time of year when the veil between this world and the next thins greatly. My friend and I rented a small one-room cabin for the occasion, and we took a mini vacation in the mountains. We were excited. We were going to watch some classic Halloween films, and we got some candles set up with our offerings and the incense lit. It was a small cabin, but it had everything we needed, and we were settling in with some tea and even some mead for the occasion. I remember hoping that I could talk to my great-grandmother. She died when I was 16, and I was hoping that she liked the candle that I had lit for her. It was a pretty white candle that I put in the window in the hopes that she would pop in for a visit. While my friend was getting up to make tea, I sat on the floor and I had an idea. My mother always told me that I could talk to my grandmother anytime I wanted, and that she would hear me regardless of where she was. She believed that her grandparents, great-grandparents, and so on would look out for me and love me simply because I was hers. I wanted to have a chat, so that was exactly what I tried to do. I did not expect anything to happen, to be honest. My control over the things that I see and hear has always been bordering on non-existent, and I didn't really know what to do to kick things off. So I made an invitation. In my head, I think my exact words were, "You can borrow my tongue and hands." It was the strangest feeling, like lending out all of my skin and getting it back dirty, or like the outlines of words were pressing into the front left part of my head. I remember feeling like I was floating, but unable to really go anywhere. And then I was crying, quietly crying, but pretty hard. I vaguely remember my face feeling wet, and with no warning, I felt like I was choking. There was this memory of hands around my throat, not of the act of being choked, but of the feeling of hands. And the only thing I can remember thinking is, I wish he would stop choking me. I think he killed me. I wasn't thinking it. I was feeling it in words. And then the words came out of my mouth, but none of them were by choice. Explaining it is difficult. At this point, I still haven't moved off the floor, but now my friend is kneeling in front of me with a concerned look on her face. It was like watching through a door. None of it really felt correct. She asked me my name, and I told her I couldn't remember, but that I lost something important and I needed to find it. Somehow, I knew it was my baby, but I am not a mother, nor am I capable of having children. Once I sort of came back to myself, I wasn't sure what had happened, but I knew that someone else wanted a chance. And I crossed my legs to breathe through the feeling. My friend, at my request, handed me my notebook, and I began to scribble things down. I wasn't really sure what I was supposed to do, so I focused on leaving just one hand on the wheel, so to speak. I just started scribbling to get things going and let my friend finish our tea. The next time I looked up, she had her back to me, and I could feel something happening in my mouth. My tongue got heavy. My throat was tight. My hands were clumsy, like I didn't know how to hold the pen, and I somehow felt a push and a pull at the same time. Watching your hand move on its own volition is a bit surreal, to say the least. Nothing that was coming out made any sense, and I didn't know what was happening. This carried on for a while, long enough to the point where I was going to give up, when I suddenly found myself overcome with rage. The kind that twists your stomach and makes your face hot. I remember the sudden change in mood making me feel ill, and I was quickly bringing my hands over my head and slamming them into the floor on either side of the notebook in fury, over and over again. I jerked myself to a halt and yelled for it to stop, loudly. I remember my friend appearing beside me and yelling something, but it's hard to hear two different people talking in two different places. It was like playing two radio stations over one another. It just became a fuzzy mess. I calmed myself down and I tried again. I relaxed and refused to move, then gave my permission and closed my eyes. When I opened them again, across the page was a sloppily written statement. Angry with me. My blood did briefly freeze in my veins from the shock of it alone, but I didn't feel threatened. I've met people, been to places, and seen things that immediately set off every alarm in my body. This didn't feel like that. It felt like having an argument with nothing but my feelings. Then, out of pure instinct, I picked up the pen in my left hand and, in perfect lettering, wrote "friend" over and over. The catch? I am not left-handed. In that moment, there is this confusing mix of sensory overload and numbness. I started to hear something coming out of my mouth. It was this low whine, incoherent slurring, as if whoever it was didn't know how to use a mouth anymore. Oddly enough, helping them was instinctual. I just put a little force behind it, and slowly, and in the most disconcerting and uneven tone, almost like a half-sobbed song, out of my mouth came, "We are here." I can remember the muted feeling of shock from myself, coupled with satisfaction. It was odd, like my eyes had stopped working, but I could still see the room, and like my hearing and touch were numb, but I could acknowledge the sounds and sensations without them. I could feel the discomfort coming off of my friend. Once that happened, it was like the floodgates had broken loose. It just kept happening. I really don't know how long I sat there, but I was singing songs I'd never heard in languages I do not speak, and writing in a foreign language with my non-dominant hand all at the same time. I remember shaking and being so tired, but I kept going. There was a woman who was ashamed of the way she died, and a man who wanted to talk to my friend. Someone claimed to be my grandam, and another was going on about a serpent coming. None of it seemed to make sense to me. It seemed like I had been sitting there for hours and hours trying to work through everything. When it came to the point where my head was pounding and my limbs were visibly trembling, I tried to come back, all the way back. It was like a switch had been flipped. I just kept saying, "Give more time. Come to the end. Give me the light. I need more time. Give more time. Give me the light." My friend later told me that I was screaming it, but I don't remember that part. I just remember this awful feeling of being slammed into in the most personal way possible, like I had been punched from the inside. I fell onto my side and I vomited all over the carpet from the shock of the feeling. My friend helped me onto the couch, handed me the now cold tea, and started smoke cleaning the cabin. It took me a while to feel okay again, like I was back in my own body. It was disassociation to the max. I could not see my face as mine in the mirror. It looked like someone else. My skin was hyper-detailed and my eyes were too bright. I just felt wrong. That was 2 days ago. Today, I finally plucked up the courage to look at my notebook, and it looked like 10 different people had written random nonsense in there. The handwriting was so drastically different from one page to the next that there is no way in hell it could be just one. And that nonsense I wrote? It ended up being mostly French. Old French. The kind that was last used around 700 years ago. I don't even speak any French. Some of it ended up being love letters. Some were the names of old towns, and some of it didn't translate in any way I could make sense of. But one prevailing theme was the word light, over and over again. In Latin, in German, in Old French, in Middle English, the word light. What scares me is that I feel that I could do this again at any point. The one time felt like a crash course that jogged my memory, as I've been doing it forever. The past 2 days, the same feelings keep creeping back, that floating disconnect and hyper-awareness all at once. I know that if I slip even a little, if I take a finger off the steering wheel, something else will slip into my skin. And that idea makes me nauseous. And I wonder, what did I do to myself? This has been another strange but true story. And wow, what a story that is. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if we get an update on this story, we will pass it along to you. Also, if you have a strange but true story you'd like to share with us, maybe you've had a weird experience in your life that you found it hard to truly understand, or perhaps you know it all too well and exactly what happened to you because it's still vivid in your memory, but you've been just a little bit hesitant to tell anybody, well, you can send that along to strangebutTrueStories2@gmail.com. It may take a while to get to it and respond to you, but we would love to read it. Now, if you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Sign up for notifications so you know when the next video drops to the channel. And as always, thanks for watching this video. I'm Steve White. Until next time.